So we're just gonna chalk this up to rated R today.
Welcome to Josh's House of Nerd podcast.
Hello, Nerd Nation. I'm Josh, and I welcome you to the podcast. Grab a cold evergreen gobble of blue milk and make yourself comfortable here at my House of Nerd. Now, for tonight's sponsor, are you looking for that magical meal that she said is bigger, longer, and uncut, and more than she could handle? Well, then come down to Bob's House of Bologna, where you can get the largest tubes of meat around. And if you're lucky, you can get a piece for yourself. All here at Bob's House of Bologna, while supplies last.
Yikes.
Okay. All right. So we're just gonna chalk this up to rated R today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we are discussing South Park, so
I mean, and I don't know what you're talking about. I was talking about bologna. But,
Mhm.
you know. And as John said, tonight on the podcast, we are on the topic for the month of movies. We are the topic, which is movies that started as TV shows. And tonight's movie is the 1999 computer animated movie South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, directed by Trey Parker and stars Trey Parker, Matt Stone, and many, many others and stuff. Let's talk about this movie and stuff. And oh, Canada.
So first of all, I am a huge South Park fan. I love South Park. I've seen every episode that I know of. Uh, Watched this movie a couple times already. Watching it again was great. Seen documentaries on it. I really I love all of it, and it's kind of a guilty pleasure because it's super crass, it's super rude, but at the same time, I really appreciate the political commentary and just societal commentary that it has in a lot of its episodes. So I wanted to put that out there that I really loved this pick because I'm already this big, huge fan, and so finally, not finally, but getting to talk about a show and a movie that I really, really enjoy on the podcast and just being able to subject you guys to my love of South Park is perfect. So I appreciate the pick.
I agree with some of what you just said, and we'll get into that a little. But I want to put it out there that of the TV show itself, I am a big fan. I've always enjoyed South Park. Matter of fact, there are so many episodes out there that are so quotable. I mean, one of my favorite episodes of all time would have to be the Lord of the Rings one, or the Guitar Hero one, or you know, I have to say that I stopped watching it somewhere after that, but for some reason it kind of lost my interest for a while. But um, but that doesn't mean that I dislike it in any way, shape, or form. It just kind of fell out of my everyday, unlike what it used to, which is unbelievable that it's still on even to this day.
Yeah, I mean, it had a couple of rough seasons. I think it really hit its stride around season 10, and then when Bill Hader, I maybe I credit Bill Hader too much too, but when Hader came on, and I think it was season 11 or 12, as a writer, that really just supercharged the series. So maybe you go back and watch some of the seasons you missed, maybe at least some of the iconic episodes like you're mentioning, some of the ones that like the Lord of the Rings, and just, oh man, they're so good.
Yeah, there's a
Really
lot of
enjoy it.
great episodes back then, which is crazy that I hadn't seen this movie before. This is the first time that I've watched it. I've watched pieces and parts, but I've never watched it all the way through, and this is the first time that happened. I don't know why it just didn't cross my movie watching at any time. I started to watch it one time but never finished it, which is kind of interesting. But
Yeah, it was good to rewatch it. I'd forgotten that the song "Kyle's Mom's a Bee" came from this movie and not an episode, so it was good to get a refresher. But I think I'll be the first one as this huge fan and as somebody who's seen all the episodes to say that this movie wasn't the greatest movie. I mean, it wasn't the greatest South Park episode ever. It wasn't the greatest because it really was just a very long South Park episode. But it wasn't the greatest one ever, and it's not one that I'm like it is on my must see if I'm introducing somebody to South Park list. So,
John.
Well, it was also kind of written and created in their first season, so like they still had a lot of growth as creators after that comes in the later seasons of
mhm.
South Park. So
Yep.
I mean, it's one thing. It's like it's a movie set at a time. It's pre 9/11. It's there's all this stuff that's kind of wrapped up in the 1999 movie, and part of it also is these guys have just got a successful contract with Comedy Central, and they've got a show that's just growing like crazy, and people are all talking about, and they hadn't yet gotten into some of their later different animation techniques
Mhm.
and kind of more advanced pipelining they did for outputting. And so it's actually kind of crazy that they put this together while putting together the first season. Like they went through some crazy amounts of like work crunch and stuff like that
Mhm.
before release.
Well, have you ever seen the documentary
Yep.
6 Days to Air?
Of course. Yeah.
Oh
It
yeah.
should
Yeah.
almost be for anybody who puts out a product, whether it be code or anything else. I mean, we can talk about code. That's kind of what we do. But that the idea that you have to put something out on a deadline, their documentary about that is extremely informative, a little scary,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
somewhat a cautionary tale also, but kind of amazing what they're able to do, what they were able to do.
Exactly, like what they were able to do in 6 days. And I take it, I think you hit the point with the cautionary tales, like backing yourself into a corner where you're stuck doing things in 6 days, where you don't have that fallback type deal. I mean, some of their best work came out of that time too.
Yeah, I mean,
So
creativity can come out of like really good creativity can come out of extreme pressure.
yep, yep, exactly.
Agreed. Agreed.
So
I, I know this might be a controversial take on this movie, but well, maybe not so. Okay, I thought it was going to be a controversial take on this movie until John just said what he said about this movie. I was kind of bored, guys. I mean, I like South Park.
What?
I know.
Okay.
I,
I
I,
can't believe I'm the only one here who thinks this is a great movie.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It's just not like my favorite South Park thing.
I mean, when I'm watching a
Sure. I
movie
mean,
and I'm kind of going, okay, how much longer? And I did do this. Because I knew you like it, Crit, and that's why I feel kind of bad.
no,
But
it's okay. I
it's
mean,
kind
you're
of
allowed
my.
not to like
You
it.
have
I
yeah,
know,
you have your own option.
I know, but I
But
still, you know,
I
I
love the music so much.
I
Like
mean, it's
all the
mostly
song,
music.
it is mostly music, and so all the songs are just infinitely like quotable and catchy. And like I said, I'd forgotten that Kyle's Mom Was a Bee came from this one. They're doing a 25th anniversary concert
Mhm.
with all their songs, and then they recently redid like I think 4 or 5 of their songs with an orchestra and professional singers to redo these songs. So if you ever get a chance on YouTube, you should look up these orchestral renditions of some of these South Park songs, and they're amazing.
Just
So
Interesting.
not at
I
work.
love the songs. What?
Just not at work.
Yeah, not at work. Don't do that at work.
You know
Um,
the funny thing about this movie is there's parts of this movie that I think are hilarious. You know, it's not like this like I was bored all the time, but it's just I don't know. It just
I
didn't
mean,
hold my attention as well as I thought it was going to. And
I
I even
think
like
this movie.
musicals.
Yeah, I think this movie works better as a group. Like you when you're
yeah,
watching
I
it
can
with
watching
see
as a
that.
people.
group.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think watching it by yourself isn't necessarily the way to. It's kind of like Tropic Thunder and Monty Python and
yeah, you
stuff
got
like
to
that. It's
watch
like
it with someone.
you watch it with people, like-minded people, and it bounces on audience pretty well. I think solo, it's not. Maybe it's not the best solo movie. Although I didn't get bored, I didn't get any of that. Maybe I got a wave of nostalgia. That's definitely a possibility because I think I watched it when it came out.
I was too young to be allowed to see this when it
Sure,
came out, and I don't,
which is
yeah,
appropriate for what the show was talking about.
yeah, very appropriate. um, but I remember I was watching South Park by this time. I remember getting in trouble for watching South Park because my parents left one night and they left a videotape recording. They were recording a movie on cable, and I didn't realize they were recording a movie on cable. So I go in and start watching South Park, and when they get home, I switch it back to whatever channel they were on.
Right.
And I didn't realize that they'd been recording a movie. So it was like a week later, I get chewed out for watching South Park. So I was watching South Park by this time, just not old enough to go into the movie. I couldn't hire a hobo to get me into the movie.
Those parts are pretty funny. I thought the Terrence and all that stuff.
The best. Well, actually, I actually think the Terrence and Phillip thing. I mean, it's a joke about themselves inside of their own show. So that's it's very crass and very blunt. But man, the best joke in the entire thing for me is literally. Have you ever heard of the Emancipation Proclamation? No, I don't listen to rap music. Like I just die at that. This is great. It's amazing.
I love the no, I'm saying it again, but I love the Kyle's Mom's a Bee song so much. So
I mean,
that's
the
the
production's
part.
high.
Yeah, the production's high, but that part kills me just as good as the Emancipation. But that whole line cracks me up. But Kenny and Hell, the
Oh,
whole
it's great.
concept of Kenny and Hell, it reminds me of the episode where they're all getting high on cat piss.
Yeah.
And Kenny goes on like this spirit quest, and that's kind of what his whole storyline in this one reminds me of. Is his spirit quest in hell.
I think they took a lot of stuff, a lot of the same ideas that were in this movie, and they kind of spread it across their future seasons. So
yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the best stuff you see in South Park is riffs off of earlier episodes too.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the artists riffing off of each other. I like I said, I really like the documentary 6 Days to Air because it gives you a glimpse inside that writing room.
That is interesting. That's the first time I didn't even know Hader was a writer until I watched that documentary. To be honest with you.
Yep. He was a writer, and I think some of their best work came when Hader was on the team. And again, that might be just me contributing way too much to Bill Hader because I'm a big fan, but really enjoy his work. So I really liked that a lot. And they're so I think you're absolutely right with them spreading some of these things out in their later seasons. And then I don't know if should I spoil anything from the latest season or not?
I mean, you can.
Yeah, it's not really a spoiler, I guess. I mean, it kind of is. So they do really good job with long running jokes and long running reveals that I think some of them have reached back to this movie. So I've seen that before. But like one of their longest running reveal or longest running jokes that they just revealed was Token. If you remember Token, the only black kid in South Park, and his name was supposed to be Token, the token black kid. Well, it turns out in the latest season they have this whole episode where Stan realizes that his name isn't Token, it's Tolkien, as in J.R.R. Tolkien. And everyone else in the entire town knows this except for Stan and his dad. And so this, I don't know, they do so well with these long running jokes. It's, oh man. And it's hard to land it in a podcast, right? So I can't do it justice in a podcast. You just have to go watch it to see it. But it really does like branch out into later seasons. So I agree with that. That's a really long-winded way of saying that. But I could talk for hours about South Park. So,
was there any like favorite songs you guys had? Believe it or not, I mean there was, but I can't think of any specific ones at the moment. Like that are jumping out at me. That I really thought the funny one at the very end was pretty funny. The Big Gay Al one, that one was pretty good. He's like, well, we haven't practiced all that much, but here we go.
It's this huge, giant production.
Yeah. Anyways, and it was funny. I did think that one was pretty cool. And that's the thing. Throughout the movie, there's lots of good little numbers, but for some reason, a lot of them didn't like necessarily stick in my mind. I only got done watching this movie like 45 minutes ago too.
Oh, geez. No, so Kyle Mom's a Bee stood out for me, and then it's the one where Counselor Mackey is singing about the swear words.
Oh yeah. See,
That one
Yeah.
always just I lose it. And he's like, and you realize whenever he's saying MK, he's saying the F word, and I'm just like, wow, this is great. This is
Yeah. I
solid.
mean, what would Brian Boitano do?
that one
Oh,
was
that one is amazing.
This Mountain Town, the Mountain Town medley at the end where they basically combine all the other songs
All the
together.
other songs together.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Is that
come
still
on,
a
there's a lot.
is that still a long running joke within South Park, the Brian Botano stuff? What would Brian Botano do?
No,
No,
Was it just for
Not
this
that I-
movie?
it was mostly for this movie. I don't think they had it. I think they may have actually brought him back in a couple of seasons later as kind of or at least the character of Brian Botano in one of their big giant end of season fight scenes or whatever. But they do that. They kind of sprinkle their stuff in, like they totally had like this 2-frame shot of Jesus marching with the rest of the soldiers in the American
Yeah,
army.
I caught that at the
Yeah.
very end. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they
Yeah, no,
like to
they-
do that type of thing. They'll bring back Streisand as a giant mecha
Mecha
monster in later seasons and stuff like that. So it's like it gets reincorporated, but I don't think they ever really like kind of touch back on it. It doesn't. It's not like a running theme like Kenny's death
No.
was for like the first 6 or 7 seasons.
Yeah, until they permanently killed him off for a season and then brought him back. So yeah, it was interesting. But no, it wasn't. I can't. I'm trying to remember of another part where Brian Botano came up. I'm trying to remember any other episode where that really came up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that,
I
Off
think
the top of my head.
I'm not much of a musical, but I don't really like musicals that much. Like I don't really seek them out. But because this is so crassly clever and tongue in cheek and everything else like that, like I enjoy these a lot more because it's not sappy and kind of overly sweet and stuff like that. Like there's all this. Like if you listen to what the background singers are saying, it's absolutely wild. And like there's all the sorts of things to pick out in the song that aren't necessarily just, oh, this has a good melody and a good, harmony
Yep.
and good
Well-
musicianship and stuff like that.
It reminds me of what is it, Deadpool, where the
Mhm.
background singers are like going, "Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit," or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of.
Yep.
That's what Deadpool reminds me of is things like this where you're talking about the background singers are like singing something totally wacko or
And
just-
the first part of the credits where it's like "Hell Isn't Good" is a song being sung by James Hetfield of Metallica.
I thought that was
And-
James Hetfield.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's just like it's an uncredited, he's uncredited on it, but he definitely did it. And it's like what they're saying in the song is absolutely ridiculous and crazy, but it's hilarious because it is.
yeah, it's the crassness just adds a whole bunch to it, and it's easy to. I think you're absolutely right. For me, it's easy to watch. Like
Yeah.
I pay attention to make sure my kid's in bed and stuff when I watch.
Yeah.
And my wife doesn't appreciate this style of humor as much as I do, so I always make sure that she's got her own show going before I start South Park up loud. But it's so easy for me to watch and enjoy because of that. Like there's nothing to be super invested in. I mean, you're not.
Right.
Whatever happens this season or whatever happens this episode is either a funny thing or it's going to be undone or it's not a serious end all be all thing. Like you don't have to worry that your favorite character is going to be killed off really. So yeah, no, I didn't even think about that before, but you're absolutely right. It's an easy watch and it's fun to watch for me.
For
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no, I think it's it's an easy watch. It's definitely ephemeral. It's not going to stick with you very long unless you really like the songs and they kind of stick in your head. But it's not going to change your life. It has a couple of themes and messages that it's trying to get across. And they also, as they usually do, they kind of pull what I call an M&M, where they make sure that as they're ripping on everybody else, they're doing themselves also, so that they're kind of unassailable. Like you can't really, you're like, oh, Cartman's saying some pretty awful things. How could you write this and put this on there and stuff like that? And they're just like, well, that's kind of the point. He's an Archie Bunker character. The whole point is for him to say something, awful and crazy.
Horrible. And I love that Cartman's the one that saves the day at the end.
Oh yeah,
that was actually
Kamehameha wave, and
that was actually a really funny part. I do agree with that one. The whole almost like going Super Saiyan type part.
Well, and it was such
swearing.
it was such an obvious, like, as soon as the V chip came out, you're like, okay, this is pretty much what is it? It's called Chekhov's gun, right? Or
yeah,
Chekhov.
yeah.
Yeah. So it was a very obvious Chekhov's gun, and you're like, I wonder what's going to happen with this. But they do it so well, it doesn't feel like a cheap payoff.
Right.
It feels like a hilarious, ending to it. So, but no, they did really good with that. I really enjoy the fact that Cartman was the one that saved everything.
And Kenny got boobs.
Oh, Kenny, poor Kenny. I really do. I think some of my favorite episodes revolve around Kenny's character and just what they push Kenny's character into being, which is just like this, I don't know, guilt-free enjoyment. It's like the personification of guilt-free enjoyment of the series, to where, like, again, the episode where they're getting high on cat piss and he goes on the spirit quest and he's like just fully embraces this whole addiction and embraces this whole spirit quest thing. And it just, to me, I really like his character. And in this movie, it's kind of the same thing where he's like consoling Satan. Like, he's in hell and he's consoling Satan over relationship problems.
Saddam was being a dick. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All he cared about was sex, man. Come on.
I'm on Satan's side on this one.
Me too.
When he's pulling out the dildos in the bed.
Yeah, no,
it cracks me up every time. It's fake. Oh no, it's fake too. Oh man.
Yeah, it was good stuff. I mean, do you know who voiced Kenny's voice at the very end when he actually took his hoodie off and was able to speak?
Not off the top of my head. No, I'd have to look
Mike
it up.
Judge.
Really?
Mike Judge?
Of Beavis and Butthead. Yeah.
Oh man,
I had no idea that was Mike Judge. I saw that he was credited in there somewhere, but I wasn't gonna get. I had no idea whose voice he did and stuff. I mean, there was definitely George Clooney in there as the doctor, and I mean, you could definitely hear a few kind of celebrity voices.
Oh yeah, the whole doctor scene with George Clooney was great. I'm like, it's ER. It's ER all over again.
And the potato.
You have 3 seconds to live. We replaced your heart with a potato. I mean, it's stupid writing, but it's done so well that it kind of works for me.
Like that whole line was delivered in such a deadpan.
Oh yeah.
It was glorious. It was just like, we've replaced your heart with a potato. It's just like, yeah, this is normal.
And I love the part right after that. Oh, the humanity! Why does it have to happen? Then he just walks away like nothing happened.
Yeah.
It never gets easier.
It never gets easier. And then he stands up and nothing, and walks away.
I mean, it's Looney Tunes writing. It's just dirty Looney Tunes. I mean, it's the same type of thing you would expect from an Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny, episode or something.
Man,
like that.
I'd watch more Looney Tunes if it was more like South Park. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, it's just a more modern sensibility and obviously kind of a fuck it attitude. So,
yep.
Yeah. Yep. Throughout the whole show, it's that way.
Yeah. And the other theme I was thinking of was that, obviously the dig at the MPAA about they're fine with huge amounts of gore and violence and everything else like that, but you better not say a swear word.
Yeah.
Because that's where they draw the line.
Well, and then just showing how, like, not really helpful the guidelines for maturity and requiring an adult, and like how all that was garbage too. It was like just a big middle finger to the MPAA.
Which is funny because they talk about, like, in the Blu-ray that they totally expected the name of the film to get, the MPAA to cut it. So they put a bunch of stuff in the film for the MPAA to cut, like explicitly put it in the film and said, this has got to be over the line, and they'll make us change it. And we have something else we're going to change it to, or we're intending to cut it out anyway. They did the same thing with Team America. And the funny thing they said was that they sent it over and the MPAA didn't even get the innuendo at all. and so they're just like,
Really?
yeah, this is fine. Yeah, they didn't get it at all.
Well, it cracks me up because in the 6 Day to Air documentary, they have a whole little section of the lady that they hired basically to be their negotiator on with in her case it was the cable company or
Yeah, it's with Comedy Central.
yeah, Comedy Central, and then the who is it that controls the airwaves? Gosh dang,
Not the
FCC?
FCC. Is it
FTC. Yeah, FCC. Yeah,
FCC?
yeah. So the just to negotiate and their strategy, like you said, to create things to be cut, knowing that they're going to change it, and it's almost like we shocked you with this one, so this one won't seem so bad.
Yeah, yeah. It
So
really has been their kind of the way they did it, and they were kind of obvious about it. Like they actually talk about it, and they still get away with it.
well, yeah, it's hilarious what they get away with. Like going to the what was it? It was either the Oscars or the Grammys in the dresses and high on LSD.
Well, that I don't think that was as egregious as it sounds.
No, no, considering that I'm sure half the people there were on something at the time.
Yeah,
But it's still interesting. Like that came out in the documentary, and it's not this big huge scandal. It's just like, oh, it's South Park. It's South Park.
I also
That's all
thought
you
in
can say.
that documentary, and they were talking about all this on how they were talking about Family Guy too. Isn't it this one where they were talking about how much they dislike the way that you know they respect Family Guy for what they are, but they also don't like that style.
I don't know. I haven't seen that documentary forever.
Yeah.
So,
I
like,
watched it.
I don't.
No, I don't think it was that documentary that talked about it. They did a whole series of episodes on Family Guy
Well, they had a whole
with the
season that was like
yeah.
wrapped
There was
around other funny cartoon, quote unquote adult cartoon Western humor and stuff like that. Where
Yeah.
they took on Simpsons, they took on Family Guy.
Yeah,
They talked about
Family
all of
Guy
that.
was there was a tank of manatees
Yeah,
that selected colored balls to create the jokes for Family Guy,
yeah.
no.
and they got upset because somebody stole one of the colored balls. I think it was Cartman or something.
There was a documentary that they were going off on that, just kind of like how they don't respect that style, the cutaways and the
Yeah, I
and
don't know. I don't
yeah,
remember.
I'd have to look see which one it is. I thought it was that documentary, but it might have been another documentary where they were talking about that kind of stuff. But
Certainly possible.
yeah,
Yeah.
how
So
they don't like the long running cutaways jokes, and they said it was kind of lazy in their mind. And
Yeah, it was probably the going
well,
down to South Park.
out of the two of them, I'll take South Park over Family Guy any day. So
Oh, absolutely.
I think the writing's better.
I would agree. I think the writing is better. I think Family Guy does depend. I really enjoy Family Guy even to this day. I've watched every episode, but you can tell that sometimes they're running out. It feels like they're kind of running out of jokes sometimes, or they've overused a long running joke too many times and things like that.
Well, and then I think some of it is they get cut back and they're fettered by being with a massive network like Fox, and not pushing those boundaries maybe as much as South Park does. So
yeah,
in my opinion,
yeah, they can't be as nasty. Yeah, they're lit on typically a little bit later in the night. Well, no, they're not anymore.
no,
They used to
once
be.
yeah, once they became mainstream, it's the same thing that's happened to Bob's Burgers. I don't know if you follow Bob's Burgers at all, but Bob's Burgers used to be a lot more crass. It used to be a lot more kind of out there. But as soon as they became more prime time and their time slot changed, uh, that kind of got out the window. They became a lot more mainstream, and they cut a lot of that stuff out. Then the writers change, and that's a whole other thing. But I think Family Guy suffers a lot from that as well.
I didn't know that about Bob's Burgers. I watched it a lot in the first season, and I really liked it a lot, actually, and a little bit
Oh, I
off and
love
on
it.
since then.
Yep, I love it till about season 8 or 9, and then it's okay. Like it's not amazing. It's no longer my favorite show because it used to be my favorite show on TV for a while. But
Hmm.
after about season 8 or 9, like I said, it became more of a primetime show. It became a lot more popular. They changed it to the Sunday evening time slot, and then things just went downhill from there. So I think Family Guy suffers a little bit from that, and South Park being as kind of unknown as it was to begin with, I think set a precedent for what South Park was that Comedy Central couldn't push back on, and I don't think Comedy Central wanted to push back on
I mean,
too
it and the
much.
Daily Show was like the breadwinner for that channel
Exactly.
for probably 5 or 6 years straight. So like
And
nobody, yeah.
and they tried to recapture that magic for a long time afterwards. They spawned so many different
Yeah, they
adult
tried.
animation.
It
Yeah, they
didn't work.
tried. Yeah, no, they didn't recapture that magic of South Park and the Daily Show.
Yep. Yeah, it was an era, and then the era ended. I don't know. Talk about like not watching Family Guy. Like I haven't watched Family Guy in years, and even with South Park, I haven't really watched it in years. Like I feel like I've grown past it, and like every once in a while, I look back at go and watch one of their later episodes or something like that. And I'm just like, I guess, but I'm not. It's no longer, I don't know. It's no longer as cutting as it used to be. But I think that
Hmm.
also is like, you know, it's one of those things. If you're growing up with it, your eyes are getting opened by it. But if you're already kind of older and jaded, you're probably not. You're like, that's clever, but it's obvious,
Yeah,
that type of thing. Yeah,
yeah,
you're not quite as like eye opening and like, oh
yeah.
crap, they're doing this on
And
on
maybe that's why I'm
TV.
such a big fan of it, because that's what it was for me. It was
Yeah.
like I grew up in a very conservative household, very religious household, and so this was kind of the opposite. There's a complete opposite end of the spectrum for me.
Hmm.
This and public school. Those two things were the opposites of what I grew up with. So yeah, I think that's maybe one of the reasons I like it so much is because of what you said, where it's kind of eye opening and it's not as obvious. Because to me, it was like, oh, this is the first time I've actually thought like this or been introduced to this, opposing viewpoint type deal, or
Right.
this take on it. So no, but I really appreciated it, and I still do. Like
Yeah.
I watch all the new episodes when they come out.
I do like this trend though in our podcast where I get to find the ones that Josh isn't like in love with. I'm okay with this.
I thought that was your mission.
I mean, it kind of is, yeah.
You keep finding some. Like you keep
I
finding
know.
something. I'm just like, all right. And I'll
I
be
still,
honest with you, I knew going into this one that I wasn't. Like I said, I've tried watching this show before, and I got it like 15 minutes into it, and then I just turned it off because I was just kind of, it didn't suck me in. I was just kind of not into it, which
which
is,
is kind of it's surprising,
it's
honestly. Like
surprising to me
this
too.
one, this one's surprising. I knew that you weren't gonna like. I'm thinking of ending things. Like that was
Yeah.
kind of an obvious play. But this one, I was like, I don't. I mean, I know he hasn't seen the whole thing through, but I mean, this seems like it's silly enough, and and stuff like that. But I wonder, I'd be curious about what really bounced you out of it, what and that type of thing. It's not like you didn't like it; it's just you were bored by it, which is a very different take from
I
John and I.
liked parts of it, but yeah, the overall like movie as a whole, yeah, I was kind of going, oh, how much more time is it? You know, type stuff. I don't know. For some reason, I mean, I know you guys are saying that, you like this part and that part, and maybe you've probably known this about me. I mean, or if I pointed out, you'll probably have noticed that there's been movies over time that I've told you guys that I don't like on a first watch, like a lot of movies, and it takes a second watch to kind of go like, all right, Anchorman's one of them, and I can go on and on about a
Scott
few.
Pilgrim versus the World,
Scott
yeah.
Pilgrim versus the World is a really good one about this because I actually really like that movie now, and I could not make it through it. It took me a couple tries, and only on this podcast did I finally watch it all the way through, and I appreciate it for what it is now. I know why it's one of John's favorite movies, and I
Hmm.
know why you really like it, and stuff like that. And I might appreciate this one more on a second watch or watching it with buddies because Holy Grail I still struggled with the first time through. Like, why does everybody think this is funny? And then I watched it with friends and I went, oh, I get it now. And this might be one of those too. But I kind of felt like in some ways it was like some of the music was kind of the same. I know it wasn't, but it was just kind of that feeling internally
it's show tunes for sure, which honestly, I
yes,
feel you there. I'm like, I know what these melodies are. I kind of know where they're going with this. And,
yes,
it's not surprising in and of itself, but it's about the lyrical content, which isn't, amazing, but it's also like you're just not going to hear this type of stuff, in most musicals out there,
right. I
and
mean that.
Disney films. Like it used a lot of Disney film melody
Yes, it did.
and callback to, but to just do it with such crass material and such,
And it
and
wasn't the
stuff like that was
material that
great.
took me out. I mean, whatever. I've watched movies that are, dirty like this. The jokes, uh, that somebody might be taken out of the movie with that kind of stuff. I don't give a crap about the swearing or anything like that. That doesn't bother me at
Well,
all.
the weird part is that the whole movie, like that's the whole point of the movie is the
Yes,
swearing and the crassness of it. Like in some sense, it's
censorship.
a
Yeah,
really lowbrow movie, and it's just about these one couple of themes, and then it does the most it can to be as outrageous as it can.
yeah.
Mhm.
So to go along with what you're saying, I am kind of shocked that I don't like this movie as much as I thought I might, as much as I like South Park,
That's
because I really do enjoy the TV show quite a bit, even though I haven't, I've kind of moved on in life too, like you said, Crit, but it doesn't mean I dislike it in any way, shape, or form. It's just not what I look for. It's funny. I look for Rick and Morty nowadays, which is kind of
Yeah,
along the same lines,
it
but
is. It really kind of picked up the baton from South Park.
I really enjoy Rick and Morty, and Rick and Morty seems to be like it started out pretty crass, and it seems to really be turning it up to 11 even more as it goes to every
Yep.
season. Whereas South Park kind of felt like it kind of leveled out after a while. And maybe I need to go back to it, like you said, because some of the seasons weren't great, and that's probably where I fell off. Some of those okay seasons, and then it picked up again maybe later on. But anyways, that's my take. It was just it's not that I hated it. It just it didn't suck me in like
Yep.
some of the
That's
movies that we
fair.
watch.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, do we want to go to ratings? Do we guys have more you want to say
Sure.
about it?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. All right, I will give mine. First of all, I gave it a 5 out of 10. Okays. Just because I didn't hate it, but I didn't really enjoy it either.
Okay.
Kind of middle of the
All right.
road.
I wouldn't watch this with my mom for obvious reasons.
Geesh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
come on.
for
She's got a
obvious
sense of humor, I'm
reasons.
sure.
Yeah.
She can watch
Nope.
it on her own if she really wants to watch it. John just doesn't want to
who
be there
knows?
for it.
Maybe this is what was on that VHS that was recorded over, and she already watched it once or something.
I could just see John sliding off the couch and trying to melt out of the room when he's like trying to find the clit.
John, as long as you don't find on that tape what Cartman found on the internet with his mom. I mean,
Oh, geez, that was bad.
Yeah.
I got in so much trouble for recording over and watching South Park, though. It was bad.
Yeah.
So much trouble. And it took me a while to realize how they even caught me. Because I thought for a while that they had, because I was in the basement, I thought they had, seen it through the basement window or something along those lines. So
kid logic.
I ended up asking, how did you find out it was me? And my parents shouldn't have told me. Because then it just made me better at making sure no tapes were recording before I watched something I shouldn't.
That's hilarious.
All right, Chris. Sorry, my bad. I interrupted you.
Go for it, dude.
No,
What's
it's
yours?
okay. Mine's 8 out of 10. It was really nostalgic and enjoyable. There were definitely parts of it that was just like, not so much. But I think the overall package is so well done. Like the music is such a great send up of what it's pulling from that it's not copying, it's actually making it better, but also making it worse because of the subject matter. So I think it's great.
I would like to say that I like overall the message of the censorship message that's going on there. Sometimes I get down with it. I don't want some of my kids to sometimes listen to it, but you know what, that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I'm in the party of I think other people have the right to do it to listen and say those things if they want to, should be free to be able to express themselves in whatever was.
I think they got the way kids would take it though perfectly. They would
Yep.
just overuse it like crazy.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Like the classroom after all the kids go and watch it, and they're just saying all the lines of the film, singing the songs again and stuff like that. That's exactly what I did as a kid. Like if I got my hands on anything that was outrageous,
I can think of a time where I was on a class trip one time, and we really didn't say the F word, but for some reason on that trip we indulged in the F word a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've told my kids about this. And then at the very end, I kind of felt guilty about engaging in the F word that hard. I mean, we really leaned into it on that trip, and then after about 3 or 4 days of it, everybody's just kind of all of a sudden you started noticing it did. It lost everything, dude. Like everybody just kind of stopped doing it, and and nobody really said anything about it. It just kind of went away because I wasn't cool anymore. Yeah. Anyway. And it's funny how kind of funny how that goes. It's so much fun at first and then nothing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are, should we go on to the next week's topics, which is me?
Yep.
All right.
Let's have your picks.
So next month's topics for everybody out there listening, whenever I get these on YouTube, the next month's topics are gangster or mobster movies, which you should have known if you were listening last week anyway. Duh. And so here are the 3 picks that I have. Number 1, you can win it all with this movie. Number 2, in this movie, it does not take much to lose it. And number 3, in this movie, maybe you should not bet on white. So you can win it all with this movie. In this movie, it does not take much to lose it. And in this movie, maybe you should not bet on white.
Casino's in there somewhere.
Yeah, Crit, are you feeling any of these?
I'm leaning towards 3, bet on white.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
All right, number 3 it is.
So if it sucks, it'll be your fault then.
That's fine.
It's okay. Number 1, you can win it all with this movie, and it is Casino. I've never seen Casino, right. So I picked it. Nope, I haven't. Right. Awesome. Number 2, in this movie, it does not take much to lose it. John Wick 2. And stuff. I didn't want to go with the regular John Wick. It's been overdone. So in number 3, in this movie, maybe you should not bet on white, is Black Mass. With the guy's name was John Whitey. Yeah. I've never seen this one either.
I have never seen this one, yeah.
With Johnny Depp. So yep. Black Mass with Johnny Depp is the movie that you guys picked.
All right.
Cool. I'm actually looking forward to it.
So am I. It's
yeah.
I mean, 2 of them on the list I'd never seen before, and then 1 I just kind of threw in there. I thought it would be kind of fun if you picked it, but anyways, yeah, Black Mass. And it sounds like you have seen it, Crit.
No, I was thinking of a different movie which isn't named Black Mass. So no, I haven't seen it either.
Wow, this is this doesn't happen very often. So
usually we don't pick movies that we haven't seen. So yeah.
Right. I usually try to pick at least 1 in there that I've never seen before, but or sometimes fair. 2. Yeah, I wanted there to be kind of a, always that possibility of picking something and having the nice, that nice reveal of something you never expected. So, anyways, All right, guys. Black Mass it is with Johnny Depp next week on the podcast and stuff. I would look forward to it. And to everybody out there listening, thank you for supporting the channel. Click the like button if you like what you heard here. And as always, may you be excellent to each other and live long and prosper from all of us here at Josh's House of Nerd. Good night.
Thanks for watching. watching. For more nerdy awesomeness, please like and subscribe and check out our other nerdy videos.